Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be ranking the top 10 superhero prototype suits of all time. If you guys enjoy the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's hop right in. Okay, so these are going to be prototype costumes across all media, so movies, shows, comics, games, you name it, and the only piece of criteria is that these cannot be the final iteration of the character's costume. They have to be an actual prototype suit. And I mean, ideally, a prototype suit will appear before the character's main or final suit, and usually it's thrown together or homemade in some kind of way, but the criteria for that part of this will be kind of iffy, but it cannot be the main suit. So the spray painted suit from Into the Spider-Verse does not count. Alright, before we get to the actual list, let's go over some honorable mentions, and the first one I know is going to make some of you mad, but we have the Human Spider from the Raimi movies. This is one of those classic Spider-Man prototype costumes. I mean, it's just a shirt, sweatpants, and a ski mask, but it still has a lot more charm and color than the TASM 1 prototype Spider-Man costume. That one was not even a costume, it was just a mask with sunglasses. This is a lot better, but it's still not, a superhero costume. He wore this during his time at the Wrestling League, and he didn't really do much crime fighting in it, but it still looks pretty good. It definitely has that charm factor to it, but not good enough to make the list, sorry. Moving on. Alright, the next honorable mention will have to go to Mark's costume from Invincible Season 1. Now, this is the suit that he wore before he got his iconic yellow and blue, and it's not really working for me, okay? I don't like the orange. I think it clashes with the blue and yellow, and the thing that I really don't like is the style of mask. You have the grifter style mask there, and I don't think that this would really function well as an identity concealer, especially for a flyer, okay? That thing's gonna be flapping in the wind, it's gonna cover your eyes, it's gonna show the rest of your face. Doesn't work. But other than that, the suit serves its purpose as a prototype costume, so here it is in the honorable mention spot. Alright, starting off the real list at number 10, we have Flash Year 1, and this costume fills out the requirements that I have for a good prototype suit, and that is being a stripped down version of the superhero's costume. So it should have the same colors, the same, design elements, some of the same bells and whistles, but still be relatively homemade and thrown together. And this is a perfect example of that design philosophy. You still have the red and yellow, you have the Flash boots, you have the symbol, but it's thrown together, It's made out of a hoodie, you got some knee pads, he's got some jeans on, some gloves, and a cool visor, but, you can still tell this is the Flash, and that is the best part about this costume, I feel like they should have gone with something like this for the Flash movie during that Man of Steel flashback. That would have been way better than what we got. Get that gross ski mask out of here. Actually, never mind. Anything that covers more of Ezra Miller's face is a good thing. So, for that movie, we'll keep the ski mask. Alright, next up at number 9, we have Damian Wayne's very first costume as Robin. Now, this took place during the Grant Morrison run of Batman, but when Damian Wayne was first brought to meet his father, Bruce Wayne, he was wearing this black and white League of Assassins uniform. It was just a basic jumpsuit, it looked pretty cool, and when Damian decided to take up the mantle of Robin, he threw this regular old Robin tunic over that base suit and then added a gray cloak, and it looks pretty cool. Now, this doesn't have the typical Robin layout or the typical Robin colors. Again, the only thing with this suit that makes it look like Robin is the mask and the red tunic. There's not a lot of green on this costume, and I actually think that the black and white really add a lot to this design. Now, I do think that the gray cloak kind of clashes with everything else going on. It feels out of place, which is why it's a little lower on the list, but overall, still a very solid prototype suit. Alright, next up at number 8, we have Miles Morales' store-bought costume from Into the Spider-Verse. Now, what's really cool about this costume is it looks identical to the one that I had as a kid, maybe just without the muscle padding, but the mask looks very similar. They even have the nose holes. It's awesome. Now, this costume represents Miles's insecurities as Spider-Man. He doesn't really fit the costume, and he doesn't fit the role yet. And it's a really cool way to show that Miles is still growing as a character, and that's even reflected in what Stan Lee says to Miles in the movie.
It always fits. Eventually.
Now, obviously, this is not a good-looking costume. It doesn't fit well, it doesn't look like a badass superhero, and that's the interesting thing about this list. It's not always gonna look good, but it does match what the story is trying to tell, and I even like the yellow cape. I think it's fun. Okay, next up at number 7, we have the Mark I from the first Iron Man movie. Now, this actually looks a lot clunkier than I remember. I always remembered it as a kid looking more like the comic-accurate version of the Mark I, but it still looks amazing, okay? I think this suit holds up pretty well. Obviously, this is the suit that Tony Stark built in the cave while he was being held by terrorists, and it's just awesome, okay? It's very bare bones, very just practical, no bells and whistles. It's got the flamethrower on it. And what I love about this costume is you can really tell that it's not supposed to be a suit. It's very obviously made by pieces from other parts of like the machinery that he was working with. Like this was supposed to be a missile, and he turned it into a suit. So it's very asymmetrical. You can see that there's parts on there that look like they don't really belong. They weren't supposed to be part of the design, and it's because they weren't. And it's awesome. I love this costume. Okay, next up at number 6, we have Captain America's costume from the first Avenger. Now, I'm not talking about the stage suit or the one worn at the end of the movie. I'm talking about the suit he wore when he went to go rescue the Howling Commandos. I just love how this is the stage suit with a leather jacket thrown on top of it. You got some combat pants, you got the classic looking shield and the helmet. It just looks so good. Definitely works for this World War II aesthetic. I love it a lot. And again, this fills out the criteria for a perfect prototype costume. You can still tell that it's Captain America. You have the red, white, and blue, you have the star on the chest, the A on the helmet, but it's wearing a World War II coat of paint, and it looks so good. Okay, cracking the top 5, we have John Kent's Superboy costume from the Super Sons run. And this is just the perfect homemade prototype costume for a kid, okay? If you were a kid and you became Superman, this is what you would wear. And what I love about this costume is it really tells you the story of John Kent and Damian's dynamic as the Super Sons, okay? It's definitely more unofficial than Damian, showing that he's the more experienced member of the team, and it just looks so good, okay? I love how the cape is connected to the jacket. You just have the ripped jeans, the baggy jacket. I think this is one of the best Superboy costumes in comics, okay? With a lot of Superboy art, especially during like the Young Justice run, they always made Superboy look too old to where he was just like Superman light. But here, it's very obvious that this is a 10-year-old boy, okay? And the costume definitely reflects that, and it just looks great. I know that John Kent is back in the comics. I don't know if it's permanent. I'm going to have to look into that, but I really hope it is because I loved the Super Sons run. So good. All right, next up at number 4, we have Batman's prototype costume from the Absolute Batman run. That's right, Absolute Batman had a prototype costume. It showed up in issue 4, and it looks so badass and absolutely terrifying. This is basically if you just crossed the first appearance Batman costume with a vampire. Now, in this issue, Bruce is remembering his first night as Batman, and he's just recalling some of the tactics and things attached to his suit that he doesn't really want to continue using. He calls them cheap theatrics. This suit came along with face paint, a voice distorter, silicone fangs that were loaded with a paralytic. He had knives attached to his gloves. He was also hissing like an animal, and he carried a gun. All things that the Batman should not really use, in my opinion. Now, other than the over-the-top weapons, I think this costume is horrifying and way more animalistic than we are used to seeing with Batman. I love the shape of the ears, the long-ass cape, the glowing red eyes, the fangs. It is all just so cool. Also, if you haven't read Absolute Batman yet, what are you doing? Go read it. It's a really cool retelling of the Batman's origins. All right, next up at number 3, we have the homemade suit from Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, this is just a perfect homemade prototype costume. You can tell exactly who this is just by looking at it, and that's mostly just because of the color scheme and the symbol on the chest. That's all you really need, okay? You don't even need the big buggy spider eyes, but this one kind of has them with the goggles. I think it's a really fun and charming look, okay? This one is just such a fun costume, and I love seeing people cosplay this all the time. It's so easy to do, and it always just looks so good. But all of that aside, I think my favorite thing about this costume has to be the super bulky over-the-wrist web shooters. They are just so classic looking. I love when Spider-Man has big-ass web shooters that take up most of his wrist. It is just such a fun detail. And honestly, I've never really been a fan of tiny, slim web shooters. I think they make no sense, okay? Insomniac Spider-Man's web shooters make 0 sense. TASM 2, TASM 1, no, okay, I feel like most web shooters are way too slimmed down and too sleek, okay? Web shooters should be bulky, okay? They need to have crazy amounts of storage capacity, and it's not realistic that a little tiny Apple Watch on your wrist is gonna be able to, carry you across New York with all your web fluid. What web fluid? There's nothing in there. You're wearing an Apple Watch, This just looks so much better. This suit is awesome. All right, this next costume at number 2 is going to be the only one where I am going to make an exception and not care about the rule where it has to be recognizable as the character, okay? If you know nothing about Daredevil, you're not going to know who this is. But I'm of course talking about the black homemade suit from The Man Without Fear, and I'll even throw in the Netflix show suit because that one's just so cool, so cool. But this costume is just perfect. This suit just screams gritty street vigilante, and the only thing that lets you know that this might be Daredevil is the fact that the costume is covering his eyes, which, most people kind of need to see. But obviously, Daredevil doesn't because he's just a badass. Now, as much as I like the sporty compression fit from the Daredevil Netflix show, I think I like the baggy look from the comic a lot more. I don't know why. And I mean, if you think about it, this is the most realistic prototype suit, or even superhero suit, for a blind man, okay? Daredevil doesn't care how he looks, he just wants to get the job done, and the job is beating the crap out of criminals, okay? So he's just gonna wear what is most practical, especially at the beginning of his career, and this just works perfectly. It's so good. Alright, coming at number 1, we have the costume from Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and this suit is just so good. And I like the show, okay? I know a lot of people don't like the show, it's very divisive. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good, but this costume is just so good. It's way better than the one from Homecoming. Like, that suit was near perfect. This one is just on another level. It has way more personality, life, and color than the original design. It just looks so good. I really like the raw practicality that this suit displays. I mean, this is the suit that shows off Peter Parker's intelligence probably the best, and that's because the web shooters are front and center. Okay, first off, they are big and bulky and over the wrist, so you already know I love them, but they're also attached to a hose that connects to a web fluid canister on his back. That is the most realistic thing I have ever seen in any piece of Spider-Man media ever, okay? Before Peter Parker refines his design for the web shooters, this is probably what they should look like, okay? There's no way that he's going to be designing a web shooter that has a big enough storage capacity, like, first year of his career. There's no way. This is way more realistic. It looks so good. But I just love the overall layout of this costume. I love the track pants with the knee pads. He's got the jersey on there with the spider. He has the classic looking Spider-Man mask, but without the webbing. But it also has goggle straps on it, which just adds to the homemade look. I love the sneakers, the fingerless gloves. The whole suit is just perfect. Absolute cinema. Honestly, I was really disappointed when they switched to the classic suit at the end of the first season. I wanted to spend a little more time with this costume because this one just has so much charm to it. You know, as much as I love the classic suit, we all do, you know, I feel like we should have let this costume had its time to shine. It should have been the main suit for the entire show. Might just be me. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, and drop in the comments down below what your favorite prototype costume is. Let's talk about it. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.